The best investment you can make is in yourself. When I look back, the best money I spent was the scariest money I spent. Some of it being a personal trainer, a business coach, a home, higher quality foods, tattoos, self-expression, gym memberships. Never one time have I looked back and regretted any dime spent on these things. Even when I closed my eyes and swiped a credit card for thousands, hoping it would be worth it. And every choice has improved my life. Anybody else make some pee your pants decisions that were the best choice you ever made. And with that being read, I want to welcome you back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is a music teacher, certified personal trainer, blogger, and she is teaching women how to find food freedom, ditch dieting forever, and love their lean dream body. Today's guest is Christine Danitz. Christine, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Quentin.
For sure. So we're going to just kick things off with a little bit of a warm-up. And so the first question that I have for you today is, how do you start your day? And do you have like a specific morning routine that you like to stick to on most mornings?
Yeah, I was thinking about this and it actually kind of made me sad because I don't have this amazing wake up in the morning and write down 3 things that I'm thankful for kind of morning ever. Right. But mine is almost like more of like a nighttime routine, which I never waver from. So I always make my lunch for the next day, put in my food like into my Fitness Pal if I'm trying to log all my food. I put out like all of my like pre-workout and powders and stuff into a cup so that when I wake up while I'm brushing my teeth, I can just put water in the cup and then it's all good to go.
Okay, perfect.
But yeah, so that's the kind of stuff I do that every night before I go to bed. And then when I wake up, brush my teeth, and while I do that, I have Sonicare. It goes for 2 minutes. So
sweet.
I make my bed, make my pre-workout, I throw on my workout clothes, and I'm out the door to the gym.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, cool. So the second question is, do you have a favorite book or book that you gift often? And if you have more than one, feel free to share.
I think in my favorite book, I like that you say gift often, because I give this book to people all the time, is The Go-Giver.
Okay.
No idea who it's by.
Okay, that's fine.
But it's about basically business strategies, and you have to give more to people in order to receive, which is kind of like how life works
for sure,
in general.
Yeah.
So I'm currently reading the Fuck It Diet.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I have mixed feelings on, and I'm only about 30 pages in and like cannot decide if I really want to pick it back up again. No. But I'm a chronic read half of a book and then put it on my nightstand and never pick it up again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in regards to the latter book that you just mentioned, what's the? I mean, obviously the title tells you a little bit about it. But kind of like what have you taken away from it so far?
Well, she talks a lot about how when you're in a diet mindset your whole life, you start to kind of give your body chronic stress and start to hold on to stuff. And even when you're dieting, she talks like a little bit in the beginning about hormones and how that can affect just like your psyche.
Right.
But basically she talks about how you should be able to eat whatever you want. And your body will stabilize itself and kind of go to your natural weight, which I agree with and I don't.
For sure.
All at the same time, especially with my food past. I'm struggling to want to see what she has to say.
Right.
So.
Cool. All right. So is there, and again, for the next 2 questions, along with the one that I just asked, if there's more than one, feel free to share, but is there a favorite quote or mantra that you have, and maybe one that's just you're going to take with you until the day you're done on this earth?
Yeah, my number one quote is train your mind to see the good in every situation. Because no matter what bad thing happens to you, something good can be on the other side.
Right.
It might take 5 minutes. It might take a year or 10 years to present itself. but everything that happens to you, I believe, happens for a reason.
For sure. Yeah.
And so it's just kind of being able to flip it positively and see what good could come out of whatever happens to you.
That I like that quote, especially, you know, just in regards to training your mind, because on from my perspective, like that mindset is very powerful, and mindset is everything. So just for you, Christine, like what is kind of like the mindset, what does that all mean for you in your life and kind of where you're at today? Like have you had to shift your mindset, or have you always really had like a positive mindset? Just, if you don't mind sharing, just kind of unpack that a little bit.
I would say I've always been a pretty positive person, like pretty much like a go-getter, like happy-go-lucky. But before I started like my fitness journey, quote unquote, I went through some stuff that just, it sucked. And so being able to come out of that it was like my bottom, what do they call that? Like ground zero, rock bottom. It was like, I was like at my rock bottom. Like I saw that on Instagram one day, and it just totally lifted me out of this kind of feeling of, oh my gosh, like this is really my life right now. And so ever since then, it's just kind of really stuck with me. And now, like, you know, when you really think about it, and then it just kind of like presents itself to you all the time. It's like almost like a mantra for me, I guess. Yeah.
So like, is that something like this quote, or kind of like mantra, however you want to word that? Is that something, did you kind of like replay that over and over again in your mind, or does it just kind of like pop up in certain situations or circumstances? And I ask that because for me, like there's like at different seasons of my life, usually like it's a word or a couple words where it's like throughout the day, like I'm just repeating that word over and over and over again, because it helps me to kind of just like focus on what I'm trying to focus on that day or in my life during that season. Is that kind of how this is for you, or not necessarily?
Kind of, yeah. Like it's my Facebook background of my profile. So, you know, like I see.
So it's official then. It's officially official, right?
Facebook official, this mantra and I.
That's cool.
So like I see it all the time, and and I remind my clients of that too.
Cool.
So yeah, it sticks with me like pretty much every day, I would say.
Beautiful. I love that. Cool. All right. So the last question in regards to the warm up is, do you have a favorite or most listened to podcast?
Yes. Okay. I listened to this girl. Her name is Erica Kramer, and she lives in Australia. She lives in Melbourne. And she's a quote unquote confidence coach. Okay. And so like,
I love all these different words that our generation has come up with.
It's amazing. I was listening to a different podcast this morning that was talking about like this 25-year-old girl who had life coach on her profile.
Right. Oh, I know.
This girl, she's 35. She's like, what qualifies this 25-year-old yoga teacher to be a life coach? Like, what does she know about life?
Right. I love it.
So, yeah, but this girl, she, like, her intro is that she's teaching women to stand in their fully expressed self. So, it's really just interesting to listen to her talk about her experiences, and, she's been through some, like, crazy stuff. And just what she's learned through that. And she has this whole group of women, and they meet 6 times in a year, and that's her program, is a year long. But yeah, she just kind of like throws like really cold, hard truths in your face. Like, these are the kind of conversations that you need to be having with people in your life that's going to make it better. And I know it sucks, but you just have to say these kinds of things. And like each episode has a different premise, obviously. Right. But yeah, like, I'll be like, I'm walking on the treadmill, just like, wow, girl, you are speaking to my soul.
That's awesome. And so her name is Erica Kramer. Is that like, is that her podcast name? Just
it's called the Confidence Chronicles.
Oh, okay, awesome, awesome. Write that down here really quick. Confidence Chronicles. All right, sweet. So, Christine, we're gonna just jump into a little bit of your backstory. Okay. Kind of, if you don't mind sharing with myself and the listeners, kind of where did you grow up? Kind of what did the childhood look like? Those younger years, were you involved in sports, extracurricular activities? Just kind of, let's just dig a little bit deeper into that, and then we'll just kind of keep moving on from there.
Okay. So I grew up in Highlands Ranch. It's like 2 miles from where I live now.
Yeah.
So I really come full circle there.
Uh-huh.
So I'm the 5th kid out of 6. Born in Nebraska. We moved to Denver when I was 3. My oldest sister is 11 years older than me, and then they're kind of in between there. And then my little brother, who's the next one, is 11 years younger than me. So I have quite the span of family members, of siblings. And my parents are just really traditional, nice. Like, they're from Nebraska and Chicago, and they're still married.
Yeah.
They just went to Italy for 2 weeks for, like, this 40-year anniversary cruise. Like, there are definitely a couple of goals.
Yeah. It's good, though, right?
It's been great to see their relationship and just see how they raised all of us. And, you know, we're all adults with jobs and homes and families, and it's kind. People ask my mom all the time, like, "How did you do this?
Right.
How did you raise this family to be so successful?" So that's kind of cool.
Absolutely.
I was not a sports person at all. Like, I call it sport ball. Like, it's just like sports are not my thing. I played softball like in 6th grade, hated it. I played volleyball in 8th grade. I made the B team. That really has always stuck with me.
Was there a C and D team or not?
I think there was a C team, so I wasn't the worst.
Right.
But it still hurt the ego a little bit.
No, I know. Like, when I was growing up, we had, for basketball, I think there was definitely A, B, and C, and then I think maybe there wasn't enough for D, but we would have had D. But but honestly though, like, you think about like all of this, you know, just the way people are today, and like having to be PC, and you can't say certain words because it'll hurt people's self-esteem. Like, dude, like, and I'm only 31. Like, I'm not that old. We're not that old at all. But it's like, just in the short amount of time that we've quote unquote grown up, like, times are so much different. Because like, can you imagine, like, because we're both school teachers, and nowadays, like, oh, you're on the C team, like,
oh my gosh,
dude, the parents would be calling up, like, the school would be closed down, like, you know what I mean?
I can barely like cut kids from honor choir. I'm like, nobody should audition, because if nobody auditions, I don't have to cut anybody.
Right. Yeah,
because it's the parent emails and just that.
Right.
Oh, it's so awful.
Right.
But yeah, you know, back in the day. You know, my parents.
The 90s.
Like, back in the 90s, they're like, just deal with it.
Right.
So I played volleyball in 8th grade, and then I went to a Catholic school, K through 8, and so my parents gave me the option. They said, you can go to public school, or you can go to Regis or Mullen and go to the Catholic school with everybody else. And I just did not love the drama, so I was like, I'm going to go to the public school where I don't know anyone. So my mom tells me, she's like, okay, well, you have to join an extracurricular activity. You have to do something. And sports was not an option.
Right.
I'm like, I am not about to go run outside with all these people I don't know. Are you joking me? How embarrassing. And so I'd taken piano lessons since 4th grade.
Okay, cool.
So I decided to join choir. And they were going to Italy my freshman year, so I'm like, yeah, I'll join choir and go to Italy. So I joined choir, and I loved it. I was in theater all throughout high school. It was like my thing. I was in plays, musicals. And then I was in honor choir my senior year. And so my choir teacher, he was definitely the most influential teacher I had.
Cool.
And so, yeah, like, we were super close, and he's like, you have this gift. It's like, you have to do something musically. And I really wanted to be a history teacher. So kind of like the teaching thing was always instilled in me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I could see that. Music, that could be fun. So I went to college and had this idea that I was going to be a choir, like a high school choir teacher.
Okay.
But found out that that's a lot of pressure. That was kind of scary. I'm like, ooh, especially in Nebraska, because you're from the Midwest. You know,
I'm from
like,
Iowa.
Those artsy people in the Midwest, oh my gosh, they do not mess around.
Music, I mean, just from the outside, because I was a jock or whatever, I didn't do any music or nothing. I used to get kicked out of music class, but that's beside the point. But like, I mean, just kind of from my outside view, like music and kind of like choir and band and stuff, like, from my perspective, like, at least in Iowa, it was pretty big time. Like, it was pretty big stuff. So
yeah, they are so serious. Like, it was crazy. So I'm like, okay, yeah, no, thank you on that. And I had this college professor who was an elementary music ed person,
Okay.
and he was like so cool, and just like I just his energy. I was like, I love him. Like, I think I had a crush on him for sure. Yeah. Like,
That's cool.
My face is getting a little flushed.
That's great. That's
so
great.
then I did elementary, and then I loved it, and it was so fun, and we just like played games in the recorder in college.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of like how that all unfolded.
Okay, so for the most part, then your childhood and those earlier years were just pretty wholesome, pretty awesome overall, right?
Yeah. Like, I had a great family. I had, there was really no, like, it was like kind of paradise.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, my parents are so controlling, and
Right,
that's the worst problem you have. Like, come on.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it was very benign childhood.
Yeah. Well, and I can definitely relate, because I grew up in a nothing short of an amazing household, and mom and dad are still together and all that stuff, and it's great. You know what I mean? Because as teachers now, and things that the family dynamics in our culture and our country within the last 20 years, I'd say have shifted so drastically, and both of us, again, being teachers, and you might have a little bit different experience just because of where you're teaching, but you said you did teach in a Title I school after college out in Nebraska, so you've seen it where these kids are coming from some pretty messed up homes, and there isn't a whole lot of wholesomeness and structure, and so I'm very fortunate. I'm very thankful, and I'm sure you're the same way, right?
Yeah, I mean, even I teach in a very affluent area now, but even the stuff that goes on in some of these homes, I am like mortified.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I literally had the best childhood you could probably ask for.
Right.
And so seeing just some of this stuff that goes on, and I told you earlier, like, I was coming to Colorado to teach all these affluent kids in this amazing, really nice community. And wow, it's so much harder than it even was at my Title I school.
Right, yeah.
Because those kids just needed love, and their parents weren't there because they knew they were working hard. And it wasn't so much of like a, here's an iPad and don't bug me kind of thing, which was what like parents at my school now, that's kind of the deal. But, at my Title I school, it's because the parents are gone at work, and the kids are these like latchkey kids, and they're, it was so interesting. And
that's a great point that you bring up, and that's cool that you've had that experience, kind of that first, the Title I school right out of college, and then now this experience in maybe a little bit more affluent area. That's really cool though, that you've had that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And I always, my friends who teach like in DPS and Denver public schools, and they tell me stories, and I'm like, oh wow, I don't know how you do that. Oh my gosh.
Good times,
it's crazy.
times. The life of
a teacher.
Of a teacher,
so,
yeah. That's cool. Now, you mentioned you had an option to go to like a Catholic school. So was like the Catholic faith, or faith, however you want to word that, was that something that was a part of your upbringing as well, or not?
Yeah. So my parents are super Catholic.
Okay.
Just, my dad is the sweetest. Like, we pray before every meal, and you're in high school and you're like, dude, you're a whack job. Like, I just could not even be bothered. Like,
Right.
I would tell my parents I was going to church, but I would be at the mall, or
there you go. Yeah.
I would tell my parents I was going to church, and I'd go to the gym, like, and so it was, but I was not a good child of the church.
Did you have to make some extra confessions then to make up, or?
Yeah, it's a little scary in that confessional.
I've never been. I don't really want to be, but.
Well, yeah, and I always tell people now, I'm like, yep, the Catholic guilt has really, really struck me my whole life. I feel guilty about stuff that like doesn't even matter in anyone's reality, and I'm like, it's all my fault. It's I see a homeless person, I'm like, this is my fault. I did this.
Right.
Like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's kind of interesting, because I grew up in denominational church, and then spent a lot of time in a non-denominational church, Christian, in college, towards the end of college and post college, and there's just a lot of different dynamics within religion, whether it's Catholicism or Christian or Buddhism, whatever, just religion in general. There are a lot of things that I think as individuals we need to just we need to think about and not just, say, and this is in any aspect of life, whether it's religion, whether it's like we're in college, whether we're at a 9-to-5 job, like, whoever's kind of the leader or the person that's kind of doing all the speaking. I think it's important for us. I know it's very important for us to take everything with a grain of salt and to test things and to really, be those advocates and study for ourselves and to learn on our own, just so that we can say, okay, yeah, no, you know what, I agree with that. That's cool. Or, I don't really see it that way, because that's where a lot of these like cults and a lot of crazy things come up, in the world. And people are like, somebody's like, hey, I'm, the second coming of Jesus or whatever. And so now we're going to go jump off a bridge and 1,000 people go do that, because they just fought. I think it's for a lot of us, it's very natural as human beings to just follow people because it's easier.
Oh, for sure.
And that's where, just like with the listeners that are listening right now, it just to encourage you, like, yes, it's cool and it's good to follow, but it's also very important that you know who you're following, what you're following, that you fully buy in and believe in it, and then, roll with it. But otherwise, we can easily get led astray, whether that's religion, whether that's, politics, whether that's, college, whatever.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you have to be able to form your own opinion about
For
something.
sure, yeah.
I don't care what it is. But if you cannot explain why you're doing something and have a good reason and really believe it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right, for sure.
So, yeah. And I have like a foray as an adult into non-denominational Christian church. Like, I just recently got water baptized. I'm working through all of that now. And so with my parents, I'm like, so I'm going to get water baptized. And they're like, but you're already baptized.
As a baby, right? Sprinkled,
They're like, you already did that as a small child. I'm like, yeah, but this is like different where you get dunked into the tank. And so I'm trying to be very much like, did you want to come? Like, and I didn't think they were going to, but then they did. And
of course they did, because you're their child. They love you.
Yeah, my parents are very loving. They're very supportive.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, so like, I come out of the water, I'm crying, they're crying, everybody's crying. I'm like,
good. That's awesome though. I just think it's important for us, just as we grow up and as we step into adulthood or whatever, like, it's just important for us to take that step back and just like, again, and if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard me say this 1,000 times. You've heard my guests talk about this a lot, but just like why? Like, why do I believe this? Why am I living my life this way? Why am I listening to that person or this person? Why? Like, I think that's the most powerful, impactful question that any of us can ask for ourselves personally, is why?
Yeah.
And don't just ask it, but figure it out. And we're not everything's not gonna just be laid before us. And it's like, okay, why am I doing this? Oh, here you go. Here's the answers. Like, no, like, we're gonna be asking that till the day we die. But just like, why am I here? Right?
Yeah. And it's almost like, if you think about it as like little kids, all they do is ask why. When 2-year-olds, they're like, why?
For sure.
And you're like, oh my gosh, you're driving me nuts. But that kind of like inquisitive discovery mindset, I think is like a really important piece to kind of like take from your childhood and never let it die.
For sure.
Because even I was like reading through some of these questions, I'm like, why do I do that? I don't know. And so even still, I'm like very, I'm very sure of myself, but I'm like, wait, oh shoot, like I don't know the answer to some of this. Why? So I'm like, dang, I gotta go do some self-work later.
There you go. It's good. It's a never-ending process. So and that's what really excites me about life and why I love life so much, because it's like, none of us have anything figured out.
Yeah.
None of us. Literally. Like, we're always gonna be a work in progress, and that's what, it's just a great equalizer,
Yeah. That's something I struggled with a lot, like in my past like 10 years, is that kind of destination, like life is a destination, and when are you going to get there, and when are you going to feel like you made it, quote unquote, made it. And that was a huge realization for me, that you don't ever make it. There's the ceiling is like not visible, it's not here, it's like,
there is no ceiling.
Yeah, it's infinite. Like, there are so many things that you can do. There's no final destination. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that in life and thinking that, okay, well, when I have this, I will be happy. Or, once I get married and have a family, then I've made it. And once you have those things, you're not necessarily happy, and you have to figure out how to live within it all and then go from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a mic drop. Let's turn it off after 25 minutes. We're done. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's awesome, because we're always gonna have to be adjusting in life.
Yes, and I think as for me, it was always, once you're skinny or once you've lost this much weight, then you're gonna be happy. Well, okay, you lose the weight, you get there, cool. Now what? Now I'm freaking out about going back up or having something happen where I can't maintain it, or
Right.
And so that was the biggest realization for me of like, oh, okay, there is no finish line. So and just kind of coping with that almost has been a huge part of my mindset shift in the last year.
Cool. All right, so I just want to ask you this in regards to your upbringing and your family.
I know I'm jumping ahead.
We're good. We're free ranging it. We're just going with the flow. It's beautiful. But so you grew up in a very wholesome family and just awesome, amazing, and all that. But in that. Was there maybe a personal struggle that you had to kind of overcome or deal with in those younger years that you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
This could go so many ways. I think if I look back on my life, my biggest life struggle would be acceptance.
Okay.
And so for me, I've always struggled with my weight, my whole entire life. And that's always been something very, I've been very body image oriented.
Right.
And so kind of my acceptance for myself always lied within weight loss. And, if I was skinny and pretty like all the other girls, then I would fit in. And that was really hard for me because I was never small. I've always tell people, I go, I've never been referred to as petite. And so just that, I think really kind of hovered over my head my whole entire childhood and high school and college experience. It really, and then going to college and wanting to feel accepted, and then being I was a quintessential party girl in Nebraska, and everybody talks about, they're like, oh, college football. I'm like, yeah, I really did that. All of those, that I lived that lifestyle.
Right.
And so, you don't realize it when you're in it that
exactly.
Oh, wow, if I had some self-love, maybe I wouldn't be doing all of these things and seeking out affirmation from other people who it really doesn't matter. And so... yeah, acceptance and and I never thought of it as self-love. I always thought I loved myself. I kind of touched on this. I posted yesterday, and it's I was really confident in who I was, and people were very attracted to my energy.
Yeah.
But within the choices I made is kind of where the want for acceptance and other people's approval.
Right.
And my mom, when I was a kid, would always say about she'd always be like, you're always so worried about people talking about you and so worried about what other people think about you, and get over that. But it was really hard to do.
Right. do you have a memory of kind of where all of that came on the scene in the sense of maybe your body image and stuff? Did somebody call you fat or something or anything like that? Or was it just kind of showed up?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So I had these neighbors, and they would always, I'm tall,
Yeah.
I've always been tall, and they called me Sasquatch because I had big feet. And so, that always really upset me. So I always knew that, I was obviously, clearly to this day, I was always a little bit hypersensitive about what my looks.
Yeah.
And I probably something happened before that, but I remember being in 8th grade, and this girl, we were let's be bulimic, and so we tried to be bulimic, and both of us were this is the worst thing I've ever experienced in my whole entire life. Like, do you not want to not do this? Yeah.
I'm glad you made that choice, because that's...
Yeah, like, I'm thankful that I at least had enough wherewithal and knew... I think because my parents were so loving and caring, and like I had this great family and these siblings to look up to, I knew that wasn't something I was going to be able to like keep up. Right. You know, because my parents were really involved in our lives, and you know, that wasn't something that was just going to go by the wayside. Right, for sure. So, and I knew I've always had this inner sense of pleasing my parents, which is a blessing and a curse all in the same time. Yeah. But you know, I never wanted to let them down. So, you know, that was it kind of kept me on the straight and narrow. I strayed a little bit, but you know, so. You went to the mall when you're supposed to be at church? Yeah.
Hey, if that's about as bad as it got,
well,
that's not too bad.
Yeah, it got a little worse. Like in college, I was like I said, I was
college
a party animal. But that was parents are gone. I was doing whatever I wanted.
You were officially an adult at that time.
Yeah, they were
right?
7 hours away.
Yeah. So, in regards to like always wanting to please your parents and stuff, did that add quite a bit of pressure then in your life, and did that create some anxiety when you were growing up or not?
Oh yeah, for sure. It kept me kind of in line, and I knew like if I would have I got caught drinking a couple times. I got caught.
Did that scare you though? Like when you got caught, did that scare you?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's how it was for me.
Literally, my mom is the scariest woman when she's angry. Like I'll hear her yell at my brother. Like this hasn't happened recently because he's 17. Right. But and I'm like, I'm so glad that's not me. Yeah. So that, and it. Not living up to the potential, and almost even some of my siblings. Like I have a brother who his standard for like what you should be is high, and so the thought of letting him down, he's 7 years older than me. Okay. The thought of like the Mike Danitz like sword on your like life, you're like, ooh, definitely not. So, but yeah, it definitely kept me mostly like wanting to work hard. Right. Not so much as like and I knew they would be understanding if you fail, you know, they're great people. Right. But it definitely kept me always kind of working towards better.
But there was some pressure though, right? Like maybe some internal pressure of like, if I do mess up, like I might get yelled at, or like, you know, something might get taken away. Oh yeah. Okay. I was grounded one time. And that was enough to make me never want to do anything wrong again. Right. So, but I would say more of a good thing. Okay. Really, cool. Overall. Good. Yeah. Cool. And I just asked that because I think we probably grew up in somewhat similar homes where it's like for me, you know, there was always, I think, some pressure of not wanting to like quote unquote get in trouble or do wrong things, because I knew like I grew up in a home where, you know, my mom would spank myself and my younger brother with a wooden paddle. My dad would, you know, spank us with his bare hand on our bare butt, and that was never really a fun experience. You know, I mean, it hurt. So there was always, I think, for me, like this internal maybe like pressure or maybe some fear of like wanting to do the right thing, because if I don't, then I'll get yelled at or get in trouble. And then I think that really carried over into sports too. I've never liked getting like yelled at, so that's kind of always driven me to like try to do the right thing and try to like, you know, blend in with whatever expectations somebody was trying to put on me, because I didn't want to get yelled at. I didn't want to be in trouble. And that goes back to my home environment where, you know, my dad has more of an explosive anger. Yeah. And I just, that kind of is still inside of me to this day, where it's like, I've broken free from that, but there's still something inside of me where it's like, I want to try to do the right things, quote unquote, because I don't want to get in trouble. And that goes back from childhood for me. So that's why I was kind of just asking you about that.
Totally.
You know? Yeah. Okay, cool.
And it's still to this day, I know all of my choices kind of relate to, like I really don't want to let them down. Right. And it's just, you know, then the expectation of like life and what you're supposed to be at 28. Like, you're supposed to be this, that, and the other thing. And, oh, well, shit, I am not any of those things.
Right,
but, they're, like, they've come full circle, and they're very understanding. Like, they're not your quintessential parents who are like, well, you're 28 and you're not married, so what's wrong with you? Kind of stuff. Like, they're like, whatever, you're doing great, you're living your best life, and just keep doing it. But, like, even still, I'm like, I don't want to upset them.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, even like with the religious background that you grew up in, there's like even still up to this point, you said there's kind of pressure from that as well.
Yeah. So. Oh, my dad would love for me to be going to Catholic church.
Right.
So like the fact that I'm going to Christian church, he's like, I mean, it's good, but it's not as good as it could be. Like, he still sends me all this like Catholic stuff. I'm like, that's cool, Dad, and I'll listen, and we'll have open conversations about it. But
that's great.
That's another part. My dad, I mean, we have not ever had a bad relationship, but like having the religion aspect, it's definitely brought us closer.
Cool.
So that's kind of cool.
Great.
Even though it was like not what they wanted, it works in my favor.
Yeah. It could be a lot worse, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. So are you out of the 6 kids or whatever that are in your family? Are you the free-spirited, like completely out there one, or not per se?
We've got a pretty good mix.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like my oldest sister, she's married, has 4 kids, very like, she got married when she was like 22, and they have this big Catholic family.
Yeah.
And then my next brother is super free spirit, like way more free spirit than me. Like he flips VW buses and sells them to people in Europe, and like he's married now with kids, and so he's a little bit more tame. But yeah, he was definitely like the black sheep is what we used to call him. And then my next sister, she's cop, and she just is kind of here, and then there's me. So like we're all kind of unique in our own way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I've never felt like, wow, I'm super different than them.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then you said your younger brother's getting ready to join the army. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's getting sworn in like as we speak.
Cool.
So he'll do his senior year at Highlands Ranch, and then 3 weeks later get shipped off to boot camp. And let me tell you, I don't think he's going to listen, but he could use some boot camp.
I think actually a lot of people could use some boot camp. Adults too.
Toughened up. Yeah, like he's not a bad kid, but he just needs a little bit thicker skin.
He'll get that.
Yeah, I'm like, I could not get yelled at for 9 weeks. No, thank you.
Yeah, it's an experience to say the least. So.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I've seen videos on YouTube. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, now you've mentioned that you went to the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. Is that correct?
Yep.
And then you studied music.
Yeah, music education.
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit more about just kind of like college. I know you've kind of mentioned already that you went to University of Nebraska, partied, studied music. Was college an awesome experience for you, or was it just kind of like something that you were kind of supposed to do? What did that kind of look like?
Oh, I loved it.
Okay, cool.
So I didn't even apply in Colorado. I was like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be close enough to my family that I could come home for the weekend,
for sure, yeah.
or or never see them. I don't know. I didn't know what I was gonna want.
Yeah.
So I lived on the music floor. Music majors, you got to picture them. Like they're just like really straight laced, just like real nice, sweet people. And then there's me. And I met this girl my first day of living on my floor, and she was also a music major, and I knew, like, Marjorie, I was like, this girl, we are gonna have fun. And so she was from Omaha, and so she knew everybody. She knew all these people.
Right.
So, from the minute I got there, and I had watched my siblings go to college, and they partied the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought it was. I'm like, you go to college and you party your face off.
Yeah.
Apparently that's not like what a lot of people did. So yeah, we went to this fair. We joined the rugby team, and we go to this rugby meeting, and the rugby girl's like standing at the front of the meeting, and she's like so out of it. She's like, "You guys, I'm really high right now, and I'm on some painkillers." She's like, "But we do love to party with the men's rugby team." And like Marjorie and I like lock eyes, like it was straight out of a movie.
It's on.
And we're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna play rugby." So.
And you didn't even play any sports,
No,
though. You guys are music majors. What?
Literally, I hated sports. I was like, okay, whatever, it's gonna be fun. Because everybody told me, like, join a club.
Right,
and,
right.
You know, you have.
But a rugby club, like, you know.
You know, and yeah, and like she's like, if you guys don't know anything about rugby, it's fine. So this girl ends up like being one of my absolute best friends in college. This captain of the rugby team. So, you know, and Marjorie and I, we get like into the girls rugby team. Like we were in with like the cool girls.
Right.
And so we'd go down to their house in the North Bottoms, which was like right at the bottom of the bridge from the stadium. And then the men's rugby team was like catty corner. And we would just like the weekends were just like crazy, like crazy party time.
Yep.
So that's my freshman year. And like everybody in the music school is really upset because like we partied all the time. Like I would show up to keyboard skills on a Tuesday morning and people would be like, dude, how drunk are you? And I'd be like, it's fine. I got home at 5. It's 8:30.
Oh my goodness.
I'm at class. It's fine. I was like, and like thinking back on it, I'm like, that's so ridiculous. It was really fun. Like we really had a good time, and I was really responsible. Like I would be drunk doing people's homework on my floor.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
Dedicated.
Yeah. So
that's
like,
hardcore.
I'm like, you guys, I'm good at this stuff. So yeah, that was like my freshman year, and then we moved into that same house in the North Bottoms. Marjorie and I did my sophomore year, and I never came home. Like. The weekend that school was over, my freshman year, I was like, I'm not moving back to Denver.
Right.
I have nothing there. I have like 2 friends from high school. So I stay in Lincoln. I stay the summer. I worked at Chipotle. I just like partied all the time. We like donated plasma. Like we were really...
You were dedicated drinkers.
We were really stand-up citizens. Looking back on it, I'm like, wow, you were such a piece of shit. But... yeah, so then I lived in that house. We partied. I only played rugby through my sophomore year because I was working at Chipotle, and I just was like, I can't with all of these things. And yeah, so that was college. Oh, and then this is another really weird thing that happened. So in Lincoln, there's this whole scene of like EDM music people. And it's very hippie-ish. So Marjorie and I decided that we were going to be hippies. So, and like she starts dating this guy and he was like super like pothead, and so, you know, we just make friends with all of his friends and we start going to like raves and stuff, and I dreaded my hair. Like
in Nebraska,
yes,
man.
And I was like, I mean, they're like, of course you're from Denver. I'm walking around Lincoln like in these like long tie-dye muumuus with dreads. Like
you gotta show me some pictures after we're done here.
Yeah, they're really special. So yeah, that was like a whole thing that happened like my sophomore, junior year, and then senior year I kind of was like, all right. We had moved out of the house. I was living by myself. I decided like, okay, you should probably be like a normal human of the world.
Right.
And I don't know. Then I just was still a partier, but then I was student teaching.
Okay. And
so I student taught in Omaha. And so I lived in Omaha during the week. And then I would come home on the weekends to Lincoln and work and party and yeah.
So outside of the rugby and the partying and going to class and doing homework.
Doing great. Like I got a 3.4.
It's
in
awesome.
My major. That's great.
It's good. I got a 3.2 and I was sober. So.
Yeah.
But outside of all that, though, was there anything like? I mean, was college just kind of like? Was it just kind of like a haze of just like partying and just like, you know, just waking up doing the same thing the next day, or were there some like kind of some internal things that you were struggling with or trying to work through, or was it just like, you know what, I'm here to have fun, I'm gonna party, and I'm just kind of going with the flow at that stage of the game for you in life?
Oh, I was definitely just there to have fun.
Yeah.
There was no self-development going on whatsoever. Like I was just like a body drinking boxed wine. Right.
But in that though, what did I mean, was there some like struggles or some like just some darkness of like just like trying to work through some issues internally?
Yeah, like I was back to kind of like that self-love thing. It was like drinking was like my way to just kind of put that off. So, you know, I had this whole idea that I was supposed to go to college and meet like the Mr. Right and then get married after college. And so like I was bouncing around from relationship to relationship.
Yeah.
Like I was never single, maybe like for 2 months in college. And so just kind of like always looking for love in the wrong places. And you know, and I knew all of these friends that I had were like fake friends. And you know, the only thing we had in common was drinking.
Yeah.
And there were times that I'd be like, okay, like I'm gonna get my life together, I'm gonna do this. But then it always like came full circle and I was never able to kind of pull myself out of it.
For sure.
Yeah. And so it was like, it definitely, like drinking numbed that pain of just like not really knowing what I liked or wanted or like to really do with my life. And so I was just like, okay, I'm here, I'm getting a degree and I know that I'm going to get one. And that makes my parents happy and they're not here and they don't know that I'm drinking all the time.
Right.
Well, I think they did, but, you know, so yeah, I would say like it was probably pretty dark, but I didn't really realize it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like looking back now, you know, hindsight's always 20/20.
Absolutely.
It's kind of one of those, oh, that's why you did all of those things, you know, and like I was like doing drugs and just, you know, and just not really there.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I some of these questions I'm asking you is because like I personally can relate because like it's, you know, I partied hard and drank a lot and, you know, drinking, drugs, that type of stuff, even exercise. There's all kinds of different outlets in life. But, you know, when you look at like drinking and drugs specifically, they are huge outlets. They are huge checkout mechanisms for people.
Yeah.
We don't want to face what we have to face internally, externally in our lives. So we start drinking, we do drugs, we get in unhealthy relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's and I've been there, I've done it. And some of my darkest days of my life were in college. And that's why I was just kind of asking you if you had that similar experience, you know. So
my dark days came a little later.
Okay, cool. So let's keep you. So you graduate from college and everything.
Yep.
You said you were doing your student teaching. Was that your senior year then, or?
Yeah, my senior year. So my second semester. And I knew I had to graduate in 4 years because you know that was a little bit on a time frame thing with my parents. And so I student taught in Omaha, and I think that actually like is kind of what it took me out of that.
Absolutely.
Most of the time. And so then I kind of started to like come out of that partying like crazy person mindset.
Yeah.
And so I graduated in May 2013. I had a job lined up. Everybody that was a music teacher was so mad. They're like, you got a job and we didn't. Like, come on. I'm like, well, you know, if you just would have had a little bit more fun, it's all about who you know. And so actually I got my first job because the principal and I were talking about Nashville. And I was like, oh yeah, I was there on a rugby tournament. And she goes, oh, you played rugby? Oh, you are going to fit in here? You are hired. Like, basically hired me spot on. Had seen none of... Yeah, I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, whatever works.
So, yeah, if I never would have played rugby, I never would have gotten my first job, potentially.
There you go.
Yeah, so then I lived in Omaha for a year. I was into running at this point. Okay. So my sister, my January of my senior year, had asked me to run a 10K in Annapolis, Maryland, because we were going. Her best friend was doing it. They were going to do a half, and she was like, "You should run this." And then we turned it into a family vacation. My parents were like, "We'll go too." So I started training that January. I was so out of shape. Like I had maybe been on elliptical like 2 times in the past 3 years. And so that I was like, oh, I started getting into running and I really kind of liked it. And I ran that first race and I was kind of hooked. Like I was like, oh, this is awesome. You know, like those runner endorphins.
Yeah.
And so then I considered myself a runner. So I was going to run half marathons and like I was training for them and living in Nebraska. And I met this guy and he lived in Lincoln. So we did like kind of the like semi-long distance thing. I'm like 45 minutes is so short. And so that was like our thing was like we were running together, but like we were still partying all the time and like and so, you know, it was good. So then I decided I came back to Denver and I knew I had to move home, like back to my family. So then we like did the long distance thing, and I came back that July. And that didn't last very long because I like knew like when I moved, I was like, see you later, maybe never.
Jeez.
Yeah, horrible.
You're funny.
So that, and I was like, that was my thing. Like I was a runner. That was just and I knew it. And so, but then like we were training for a marathon together, and then I went to Kansas City and we ran this marathon, all these races together after we had broken up. Like it was just like such a hot mess.
Yeah.
But like that was my mid-20s, was like hot mess. You know, I was teaching, but I was still going out all the time. And like in Nebraska, I had these friends who we would go out to like the gay club on Thursday nights. And like it would always be like cowboy night. Like we have so many pictures in cowboy hats. I don't know why.
You've got some experiences.
Yeah, I've done a lot. I feel like I've done a lot of things.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and because I've always been kind of like a yes person. Like,
right.
I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Sure, that sounds fun. So I came back. I broke up with that guy, and then I was running, and then I don't know. The timeline gets a little wishy-washy. Then I was like single for like a month because, you know, I'm still in this like single, or I can't be single. Like, I don't know how to be alone because like I'm like still numbing all of my pain of like who I really am with relationships and alcohol. So then I started dating this guy, and this is like, I always call him, I'm like, this is my ex of exes. Like he's the one, like the Voldemort of exes that you like don't talk about or that like changed everything. And so we did the party thing, and like we did the party thing. You know, I'm a teacher. Like I shouldn't be out on a Tuesday or a Thursday, but we would go out and drink like a liter or two of wine and just like hang out and listen to music until like 4 a.m. and then I would go to school the next day.
Wow.
Like please be to God that nobody from my school is listening to this. So like, you know, like we were crazy. And so I was 23 at this point.
Okay.
I don't even know if I'm supposed to be talking about this. I'm just talking.
It's all good. I don't know. It's your story. It's your story.
So yeah, like I'm 23. I'm training for a marathon. Like keep this in mind. I'm like, yeah, I'm a runner still. And like we would go out and party all weekend, and I would run my long races on Monday. And because I couldn't do it on Saturday or Sunday because I was wasted.
Right.
And so, you know, we had this huge group of friends, and like, I loved all these people, and like, I was so enamored because I didn't really have anything, you know, I had not built my own self at all yet. Right. You know, I moved back, I was with that guy, we broke up, then I started dating, the ex of exes. So I'm like, wow, like, okay, so, you know, and you know when you're with people, but you feel lonely? That was basically like a year and a half of my life. So we dated for almost 2 years. And like, I knew we're wasted in San Francisco. And like, he's saying stuff to me, and I'm like, I know that this is not what I need to be doing. Like, this is not the man I'm going to marry. And, but I stayed in the relationship for another year plus. So then it's all like, it's like very like everything had to happen for a reason.
Absolutely.
The way it all unfolded.
It does. Yeah.
You know, it's like January 2017. We're on a party bus in Florida for this like lacrosse alumni trip. I'm like, oh my God. And this girl who's so small, just teeny tiny little rail thin girl, falls on top of me in this party bus, breaks my foot. At this time I had been going to Orange Theory, and I was going like 6 times a week, and I was like, yeah, like I was so obsessed with it. And, but not seeing any results. 'Cause you know, when you drink and eat from Friday at 3 to Sunday at 6, like nothing's going to happen. And so I was like absolutely devastated, like bawling on like the foyer of my sister's house, like crushed. And, he didn't really care that I broke my foot. And I'm like, what is wrong with this? What is wrong with him?
Right.
And so I'm like, I'm like, okay, well, you suck. And like, he like comes to my house once, and I'm like, cool. Yeah, I have a broken ass foot, but I have to drive all the way to Lowry. Like, come on. So that was January, I break my foot, just doesn't care. And then, February happens, and my brother had come to town because he lives in Seattle. And like, just like we got in this like huge blowout fight because he was like, you didn't tell me about this dinner, and I'm like, it was 3 weeks ago, like you were probably drunk, and so was I. So all these things are building, and like I'm not working out, and so I'm just like a super psycho, like craziest person, and I'm like, I know what I need to do, and like my family's just like sitting in the wings, like waiting for the right time.
Right.
March comes, my grandpa dies, and he like doesn't want to give me a ride home or ride to the airport to go to my grandpa's funeral. Like, hello, this is how little self-worth I had. I'm like, whatever, no big deal. Oh yeah, you're gonna go skiing, it's fine, cool. And then April, I crashed my car. Like, it was a hot mess.
Right.
I crashed my car. He wants to go to this concert in Boulder. I'm like, no, like you're not gonna come get me. I'm like, my foot is finally, I'm in a flipper at this point. Like, I'm not even in a boot. I'm in a flipper. I'm like, you're not even going to come pick me up to go to this concert? And like, so I'm like, I'm so mad.
Right,
and like, my parents are finally like, okay, like, do you see all of the things? And I'm like, yeah, but what if? Like, I don't know. And then... So my foot was better. So I joined 24-Hour Fitness. My best friend goes with me, and like I talked to this personal trainer, and she's like talking to him, and she's like, well, yeah, she drinks every weekend. He's like, oh, you drink every weekend? Like, I will not train you. Absolutely not. And I'm like, oh, because I love a good challenge. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I challenge you on that. So I'll never forget it. Like, I'll never forget driving my parents' car over to my ex-boyfriend's house and being like, yeah, so I met with this personal trainer. I'm like so excited. I'm like, yeah, so this is kind of like what the meal plan looks like, and this is what I'm going to be doing, and and he's like, well, good luck with that, because I'm not changing anything that I do. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, this is the final straw. So like of course, and like I'm very non-confrontational. Like I'm super hate making people upset. So I wait, and then we like text about it for 2 days, and then we break up via text, like a 2.5-year relationship. I'm like, this is awesome. So yeah, like it was crazy. Like it was like the craziest. Man. I was like, wow, 2017, whew, what a bitch. And so, but like if none of that had happened,
right,
I would have never understood that like I had a lot of work to do on myself. Like I didn't even know what shows I like to watch. I didn't even know what music I like to listen to. So I'm like, I hire this personal trainer. Again, swipe my credit card, pee my pants. I'm like, how much is that? Okay, whatever, it's fine. And then it was like revenge bod. That was like my whole goal. So like my whole thing started out completely aesthetic. Like I was like, screw that guy. I'm going to get back at him by being so hot and so like the most productive, amazing, perfect version of myself. And then I just like that kind of like slowly faded, and then I was like hooked on everything.
Right.
So yeah, like that is like my very long-winded.
No, it's
like,
good. It's
fitness
good.
journey.
I like it. Yeah.
Like, and that's why, like that's when I saw that quote, that train your mind to see the good in every situation, was right when we broke up, and I was like, this sucks. And my mom always she'd be like, this is the hard thing to do, but it's the right thing. And so her constantly saying that to me, I was like, okay, you're right. There is good in this. And like now looking back 2.5 years, I'm like, wow, look at everything I've accomplished.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah. So it sucked, but here I am. So.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, when you started with that personal trainer and stuff, was that then also kind of the beginning of you having an awakening of like just realizing that you had to do some really hard, deep internal like work?
No.
No? Okay.
No, it still even took me like I was like, I was like really focused on myself, but I didn't understand like all of the things, all of the work I really had to do. Like I worked on my exterior, and I was like, I was just working out all the time. My diet was on point. But like really like internally, I was still kind of like toying with all of these things. And that like that mindset of once I lose 20 pounds, I'm going to be happy. Like once I'm there, I'll be happy and everything's going to be perfect and fine. And my life is going to be exactly what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And so like throughout those next few months, like it was insane. My trainer, he would always say to me, he'd be like, you are literally like the dream client. no, I've never seen this before. You know, like I lost like 20 pounds in 3 months, and just like I was like at 15% body fat, which like is, I look back at pictures, I'm like, wow, who is that person?
And you were doing it healthily and
yeah, and like I was eating like 1,700 calories.
Right,
and so,
right,
you know,
right.
as a girl who's done Weight Watchers and every other diet in my life since 6th grade, I'm like, oh, that's so many calories,
Right,
you know? And so like I was doing a lot of cardio, but and like spending 7 days in the gym because like that was like my solace from my problems. But it really wasn't until kind of like I started to come out of that, like I maintained my like amazing, like perfect, like I was like, I could be a bodybuilder. What's up? Like I maintained that for like 3 months, and then it started to like creep up because, you know, life happens. You're like going out with your girlfriends on the weekend, and God, that's a whole nother thing. I had to make a lot of girlfriends, and like had to really come to terms with having girlfriends is good and like a whole basis, because like I really had no friends when I was dating what's his face. So like, you know, it was like a whole like life shift, and I was like, I don't even know how to have friends, and like I was still trying to date, and I was like, I still don't really know what I like. I like to work out, like I know that much. So it didn't really come until probably like 7 or 8 months after like I reached my goal, kind of like wavered around, and like, you know, had to deal with like a lot of the like sadness about like gaining weight and being like, oh my gosh, like I've gained 10 pounds kind of thing. And then once I was kind of able to like understand more of like, okay, well, what do you really want? Like, do you really want to live this life where you can't even go out to dinner with your family because you're so worried about your macros that you can't even do that? Like, and so kind of through that, like, fixing my relationship with food, I was able to like really work on what I was all about.
Okay. Now, professionally, through all of this hot mess,
hot mess.
Your words, right? Your words.
Oh
your
yeah,
words.
I will fully admit hot mess.
You're gonna embrace that, right? So during this time frame of just like kind of just wild and crazy, were you teaching this whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
No,
go
you
ahead.
go.
Okay.
No.
Well, I want to. So like, you know, you're the personal trainer thing. You're getting like the outward appearance dialed in and working through the eating and all this stuff, and then you're teaching. So professionally, was there also an emptiness in that, or were you really enjoying and loving the teaching and being in that profession?
Oh my gosh, I cried every single Sunday. Every Sunday, I was like, oh my god, my Sunday scaries, and like I always thought it was the alcohol.
Right.
Like I always was just like, oh, you just have anxiety because of booze, and it's fine. And like I'd get to school on Monday. And I would say to myself, oh, you actually didn't forget how to teach small children. You're still in charge, and it's fine. But yeah, I really, really wanted out of that. Like, I just was like so unhappy with everything. And I was like, well, maybe if I find a new job that I'm making more money or doing something, like maybe I'll be happier then.
Right.
And then, you know, my super traditional parents, my mom's like, well, you know, when you have kids, it'll be really nice to be a teacher and have summers off. I'm like, I don't even think I want kids. Like, I'm just trying to drink forever and travel. Like, what? And so, yeah, there was a super professional emptiness. And so once I stopped drinking, and I still went out every now and then, but like once I really quit all of the like every weekend, I still had anxiety on Sundays, and I still was like, just like pits in the bottom of my stomach and my like whole soul. And I would like be sitting on my parents' couch, just like, please don't make it happen. Like, please, I wanted time to stop. Like I had it was horrible.
Because you didn't want to be at
like
teaching,
I did not
right?
want to go to school. Like I just thought it was this horrible, awful thing. And so that's kind of when I was like, well, maybe I could be a personal trainer. And then I'll be doing something that I love because I love fitness, and this will be great. And that's what I'm going to do. So then I kind of like talked for months about becoming a personal trainer. And then I met this girl on Instagram because like I had an Instagram, and I was like posting all the time. It was like purely aesthetic and like some mindset stuff. And so she was like, oh, you want to be a personal trainer? I do too. And then both of us, we literally went to coffee and then we both signed up for our NASM certificate the next day.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a personal trainer. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to leave my job at the end of this year. It's going to be so cool. Well, like, come to find out that it's hard to make a living full time unless you're really willing to take some cuts back.
For sure.
And I was not willing to do that. Like, I'm not a risk taker. Like, I like safe things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just was not willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
But like, I hired a business coach. So I was not willing to like totally give up teaching because I knew I was comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
But my, it was like 2018 in April, I hired my business coach.
Okay, cool.
And so we worked one-on-one together for 4 months. And so she just kind of taught me like a ton of stuff about business and sales and just like how to even like start this personal training stuff. Because she was a fitness coach.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I'm like, this is crazy. Like she found me on Instagram. I'm like, this is crazy, but yep, here's all this money and let's hope it works. You know, like I was just like hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And another one of like the best choices I ever made was hiring her. Like, so I always like attribute my personal trainer. That was terrifying. That obviously needed to happen. I had to have all my knowledge come together, and then her. And so then I was able to kind of start acquiring clients that summer. Mm-hmm. And I knew there was no way that I was going to be able to leave teaching.
Right.
And like still make money.
Right.
So, where was I?
No, you're good.
Professionally. And then within all of that, I don't know. I just kind of had this new appreciation for teaching. I was like, well, you know, this is paying the bills really well. And actually it's really not that bad. Like,
right.
You know, you're teaching music and you're playing games all day. It was kind of like a get over yourself kind of moment. Like my mom had been saying to me for 4 years. And so now I kind of have a newfound, like, fresh feeling on that. Like, it's like, you know, this is kind of awesome, and these kids are really awesome,
Absolutely.
And they love you. So embrace it and be a good example for them.
For sure, yeah.
So.
Well, and that correlates, you know, to kind of this, I would just call it like an awakening for you personally, right? Mm-hmm. Because you've gone through this, you know, you went through the physical transformation, it sounds like, first of all, and then, you know, we haven't really touched on it yet, and I would like you to here in a minute, but then, you know, you've gone through that kind of that internal work, the mental transformation. You took that risk of getting a business coach, becoming a certified personal trainer. So with all of that change, and at some point you've kind of found out who you are and everything, then, you know, that gives you kind of that fresh perspective professionally, right?
Yeah. Oh, right, for sure. Cool. Like it has a whole new, you're just like, okay, this has a whole new meaning.
You've stepped out of kind of that darkness and so to speak, and you've kind of stepped into that light. You've stepped into the awakening that we all need to go through, going back to like why am I doing this? Why am I believing this? Why am I here and all that? Yeah. So let's touch on that. Where, you know, you mentioned kind of like April 2018, you got the business coach and really starting to fall in love with fitness and being involved in fitness. So where was it when you really started to look internally and inside and start doing some of that work of like, why?
Ooh. I would probably have to say like this past like 6 months has been extremely like transforming in my life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kind of accepting who I really am. And so that kind of started with the body image and being like, okay, you're never going to be tiny. Like right. This is a thing. Like I had to really sit down with myself and be like, okay, like for what reason are you trying to lose? Like you want to lose 5 pounds? Why do you want to lose 5 pounds? Mm-hmm. What will be better in your life if you lose 5 pounds? Nobody will know. Mm-hmm. And so like kind of realizing that and being like, okay, cool. I'm good with that. And then kind of like almost like a social transformation, because I've always been a yes girl. I'm always like trying to bend over backwards for people and just kind of go with the flow and do things that I know people want, kind of like the expectations with their parents and kind of accepting like, okay, there is no destination. Like I remember I'm driving, this was at Christmas time. I was driving to my friend's birthday party. It was her 30th birthday party, and we were like doing this painting thing. And I don't know what, like I'm driving this like beautiful mountainscape up to Lyons, and I just kind of was like, there is no destination. Like you're never going to reach something and be happy. Like there's no such thing as finally making it. And when you can realize that and really accept it, then I think you're going to be so much happier, because I've always been the kind of person like, you know, a marriage weighs a huge toll on me, because my whole family, I'm like, oh, they have these amazing marriages, and why am I not married? What's wrong with me?
And I've had those same questions, believe me. So
I'm like, people are like, why are you single? I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why. Like, there's a million things that go into this.
Right.
And so that for me, kind of really accepting being single, like that, that opened up a huge door for me.
Right.
And just being like, then it kind of transferred into my friendships and being like, okay, well, are these friends I really want, and why, and what kind of purpose are they serving, and why are you doing all of these things that you still don't want to do, but you're just doing them on purpose, or not purpose, like
without
purpose. Yeah. And like just doing it because that's what you think people want to see. And so kind of that, just like, okay, this is where you are. This is what's going on in your life. This is your truth that you're living every day. And you can't base anything on what's going to happen in 10 years. So stop thinking so far into the future that you can't even focus on your present. And so I wrote a blog post about it, and I like literally I park at this birthday party, I pull my laptop out of my bag, and I just start like feverishly like typing, and I'm like, this is so good. My brain. And like that I think is like the moment where I just realized there is no destination. This is forever. You're forever changing and always going to be, if you're always searching for something, you're never going to be able to enjoy what's right in front of you. So then I just kind of was like,
that's
all
good.
right.
I like it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So basically, I mean, like the last 6 months is really kind of when that full-on awakening has happened, and you're really stepping into it then.
Yeah.
Cool,
And I mean, it took a lot. Like
it does. It's hard.
You know, it really is. And I tell people that all the time. Like I tell my clients, I'm like, this is not, you cannot put a timeline on this, on anything that you're struggling with. And a lot of times when we work together, a lot more issues come up through the woodworks.
Absolutely.
Than it's way more than fitness. You know, it goes
of course
so much deeper. I'm like, hey, I'm a therapist too. And so just like kind of understanding that and really being able to accept it is, I think, huge.
Right. So to me, it sounds like you really had to come to a point where you had to let go of a lot of things in the sense of some of these ideas, expectations, kind of the way you've always done it. You just had to say, you know what, I'm letting go of, you know, I got to lose 5 pounds. I'm just letting go. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Just like let it go. It's out. These are things that are just not like, you have to evaluate what's important, what, you know, let it go. So over, I mean, obviously, I mean, because this is, you know, kind of, you know, a new thing and kind of fresh for you in regards to just, you know, the last 6 months of kind of stepping into this, but like up to this point, what are maybe 1 or 2 things that you are really trying to step into and become and pursue? Something recently is really being who you say you are. So like, kind of, we were talking earlier, like I was like, sometimes I'm worried that I'm like a poser, because like I didn't go to college for fitness, and you know, and just like really living that truth. Like, okay, you are putting, you know, I try to be as authentic as possible on Instagram, but I do think that within authenticity, there is fakeness. And I think that can be said for everyone. For sure. Yep. But like really, like, if you're going to say it, then you better do it yourself, you know, because I will tell my clients all the time, like when they go off track or have a hard day, like, you know, I'll talk them through it.
And some of that stuff I don't even do. Like,
right,
you know,
right.
and so I'm like, okay, like you're talking to them and telling them to do these things. Why don't you practice it yourself?
Absolutely.
So that's something that I've really had to be like, okay, is this really speaking to your truth? Are you really being who you say you are? And so, and then, you know, it goes back to like dating, which like I hate that like I feel like a lot of my conversations focus around dating, especially with my girlfriends. But like going on dates and like being like, well, yeah, these are the things I really like to do, but like not wavering because I want to make somebody else happy.
Right.
And like, you know, like I'm like, well, do I want to go and have a margarita on a Tuesday? Like, is that something that I want my life to be about? And like, am I putting out this front that I want this one thing, but really I just believe this other thing? And so that it's been hard.
It is.
It's like, and yeah, it goes for everybody in your life.
I mean, for me personally, like, you know, just going on some dates here recently or whatever, it's just, you know, because it goes back, like I'm kind of the same where it's like, I don't want to hurt anybody. I want to please people. I want people to be happy and all that. But sometimes in that, or a lot of times in that, we let go of ourselves to try to please, and we don't stand on our foundation, what we truly want. And, you know, just recently I've had, you know, a couple experiences of just like, you know, being on a couple dates or whatever. And it's just like, you know, this girl like mentioned a couple things. I was like, oh, you know, yeah, I'm cool with that. And like, I kind of like, you know, went with the flow because that's kind of who I am. Just kind of go with the flow for the most part in life. But then I took a step back and I knew that nothing was going to like come of like, you know, these couple dates that I went on with this girl. And, you know, and I kind of gave in to kind of like, just to kind of please her in this certain area. And then I've been thinking about it lately. It's like, dude, no, like this is important to me. And, you know, it's a huge part of my life. And I'm not going to give that up to mold into somebody else or to please somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that something you've had to kind of work through as well?
Totally. Like I'll like be like sitting after a date and I'll be like slapping myself in the face like, why did you say that? Or like, why did you agree to go do something like that? Like, why would you go downtown on a Friday night because you hate doing that? You know, like that's not who you are. But and then like then my like party self kind of creeps back in and I'm like, well, that could be fun. But it's just creating that image of who you really are. And I think it's just like trying to be yourself. It's hard. Like it's really difficult. And like it you know, if I'm gonna be myself, like let's be real. I went on a date and I really threw out some of this fitness stuff. Like this dudes be like, what is wrong with this girl?
Yeah, no, and for sure.
It's such a weird fine balance. But then I'm like, I don't want somebody who's too strict. Like you know, it's like kind of like the key. You can't have your cake and eat it too. But then it's that whole thing of, well, am I trying to date just because like I want to date, or do I really want to bring somebody into this? Am I ready? Like, and, you know, and then I think back, I'm like, oh, I've only been like really truly understanding myself for 6 months. And so if I don't know my why, like, can I really bring somebody in? You know, it's so interesting.
Yeah, it is, and this is kind of my outlook on just life in general. Is like everything that we go through. If our eyes, our ears, our mind and our heart are open, everything in life is an experience, and we can learn in and through that experience. You know what I mean? So like some of these experiences lately in regards for me personally dating, it's like, hey, like, you know, nothing's gonna come of this, but it was an experience. I learned more about myself. I learned more about, you know, a female or a human being or whatever. And it's like, there was nothing bad. There was nothing wrong. There was nothing except for it was an experience. I learned from it, and I'm just going to continue to grow, mature, and step into who I know I'm supposed to be. And then also, I think it's important for us just to remember that, like, you know, when you find out like who you are, why you're here, and all that, like we can become so rigid in that we never allow people to come into our lives, or when we step into somebody else's life, it's like, if we seriously want to have an intimate relationship, get married, and have a family, there's gonna have to be some give and some take. Like that's something I've had to realize. Like, okay, with my eating, I weigh out my meat. Like I'm very dialed in. My training, I'm very set in some very specific areas in my life, and it's like I have to talk to myself, say, Quentin, like if you want marriage, if you want a family, if you want this, you're going to have to let go of some of, not yourself, but you're going to have to let go of some of these things that you've been holding on to for a big part of your life. And you're going to have to realize like you're more than you're eating. You're more than you're training. And so what I'm trying to say is like, life is just a process. It's an experience. And let's just learn so we can just continue to get better, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Grow through what you go through.
Amen.
I have to remind myself of that. I'm like, okay, well, this is just another learning experience.
Yeah.
What can I take out of it?
For sure.
So,
cool. All right, so we've been going for an hour and 19 minutes. So let's try to wrap things up here a little bit. Now, I do want to talk about because this was something that you posted on Instagram recently. It was something about consistency. So just fitness wise and just overall life wise, what is the value and the importance for us as human beings in regards to consistency?
There's like, if you're not consistent with your training and your diet, which doesn't mean you have to be like weighing food all the time.
Right.
I'm a chronic food weigher. I love it. It's my favorite appliance. But like if you've got 3 days where you do great, and then you've got 3 days where you're, I don't know what you're doing. And then you try to come back to it and it's just like this wishy-washy, uncommitted thing, you're not going to see the results you want.
Exactly.
And that doesn't even have to just apply to fitness, It can apply to, it's like when you think about reading a book. If you pick it up one time and then you pick it up one time a week later and then another week, like you're not going to remember what you read 2 weeks ago. And so just that consistent effort, I've been working out and lifting and eating like most, I've been on vacation and I've gotten myself into some situations with some food. But overall, if I can look at my last 2.5 years, like of consistent, always coming back to the gym and being on track with my food, the progress I've made is monumental. Progress is never linear. I always tell my clients that. You're never going to get the results that you want within the exact time frame that you want because that's just not how your body works.
Right.
So it needs time to adapt and kind of figure out what you're doing to it. And that's like a huge problem with and I think especially, I think everybody, but women especially have a really hard time on the weekends. And, Monday through Friday is great. Saturday, Sunday is a shit show. You're like, okay, cool. The 2 days is kind of a lot of days out of 7. So, if you can get through it once and make good choices, then the next weekend's going to be a little easier, but it's not always going to be perfect. And so that I think is so important. And just like, with like going on vacation and coming back and just getting back to it and having like almost like a home base to return to. Cool.
All right. Now, you've got some tattoos. So are the tattoos, like kind of pre-awakening or post-awakening or not?
Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 6. So 3 of them are pre.
Okay.
And 3 of them are post.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I have peonies on my forearm, and when my boyfriend and I broke up, I would go to Trader Joe's and buy myself peonies every Sunday. Because I loved them, and I was like, I don't need no man.
Right.
So I felt like it was kind of like they were my transition time of really started the process.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 are like, I have sunflowers, and those just kind of make me happy, and I've always wanted them.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
So yeah.
I obviously I have tattoos, and I love tattoos, and I just think, if in the right mindset, they just really are just expressions, you know what I mean? And like, I look at mine and the different seasons when I got them, and it's just, they're great reminders, for me personally, and I love them. So that's why I just wanted to ask, because it's like, sometimes, we go through different things in life and we get tattoos to kind of memorialize or to remember, you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. But it's always funny, like when people ask me about my peonies, I'm like, well, how much time do you really have?
Right.
I always say they're an ode to my independence.
It's beautiful. I love it. All right. So I think 2 questions here. Now you spent most of your life in Colorado. So if somebody that lives here, they just moved here, they're going to come visit, is there maybe 1 or 2 places that you would absolutely say, if you're going to be in Colorado, you've got to check out?
I hate that I'm about to say this, but Red Rocks.
Red Rocks, no, it's cool.
It's like so iconic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else here. Like, I mean, my favorite thing to do is the Manitou Inclines.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I understand that not everybody is kind of a
Right,
psycho
right.
like me. But I think just going downtown and walking around Rhino and that whole
The art district,
is really cool.
Absolutely.
And going to that hotel, the Source.
I don't know.
Oh, you should go there sometime. It's awesome. They have like a butcher and a Mexican place and a really good brewery.
Cool.
I know with the food thing. That's
I'm not.
You're like, no, I won't have beer.
No, I haven't drank since I was 21. So.
Oh my gosh.
That's one of those non-negotiables for me, but.
There you go. That's good. See,
Yeah,
and I've
is.
gone through seasons where I'm like, I'm gonna give up drinking, and then I'll be like, I don't know, I just want one.
Yeah, I don't know. It was. I think for me at that stage of the game, it was. Like I've always known it was like quote unquote unhealthy for me, but I mean, like I said, I partied hard in college and stuff, but for me it was more like faith and religious stuff, and then just with the health thing, it's just like it's just something I never really liked. I mean, I drank I guess I drank Captain Morgan in college a lot, but it was just like Bud Light and Busch Light, and I was like, dude, it's disgusting, but you do it because that's what everybody else is doing.
Right.
So I mean, I never really had a taste for it, and it was just like waste of money and waste of everything. So I was like, I just cut it out.
I love that. When people tell me they don't drink, I'm like, oh, that is so amazing. I love that so much.
And you know what? I mean, I'm from the Midwest. Like people know how to throw down beer and stuff, but there's a good drinking scene out here too. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, downtown Denver is a mess.
I know, it's crazy.
Oh my god,
so.
I went to Bottomless Mimosas 3 weeks ago, and wow.
All right, so the last question, Christine, that I have for you is, what sets your soul on fire?
Being the best version of myself. I am the happiest when I know that everything is aligning and I'm doing the best that I possibly can. And like that goes with like learning and acquiring new skills and new knowledge and just kind of being on top of my game.
Love it. All right, so that kind of wraps everything up. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, if anybody wants to check out kind of like what you have going on in regards to being a personal trainer and becoming a client, go ahead and share anything that you would like to share in regards to platforms that you have and things of that nature.
I have a Facebook page called Buff and Balanced.
Okay.
And then my website is www.buffandbalanced.com. And my Instagram is at Christine with a CH D_fit.
Perfect.
So
all right.
any of those are wonderful.
Cool. And Christine, I just want to thank you for inviting me into your home today.
Of course. Thank you for coming. This was so fun.
Sharing your story. It was definitely got some laughs and definitely very thorough. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. All right. So listeners, I just want to again thank you for tuning into the 127 Fit podcast and hanging out with myself and Christine this afternoon, or I guess it's this afternoon for me, but whenever you're listening to this, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at 127fitness. Facebook is at Quentin Vars. And if you are finding value in the guests that I'm bringing on and finding value in this podcast, please leave a 5-star review and comment, specifically in the iTunes Apple podcast app. And then if you think you would be a great guest, or if you have somebody that you think would be a great guest or guest, you can just send me an email, reach out to me. That email is 127fit@gmail.com. Again, if you're finding value in the podcast and the guests I'm bringing on, I just ask that you'd share them on your Facebook and Instagram stories and use the hashtag #BeSomeoneToFollow. And then per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. This time until next time, I will catch you guys later.